Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are tackling absolutely the ultimate structural thought experiment, that exact, unbelievable moment humanity definitively realizes we are not alone. Drawing on the core themes of the First Contact prospect, we're not going to treat this as some distant, far-off science fiction fantasy. No, we are treating it as a literal event, a sudden, irreversible paradigm shift. We're going to explore the raw mechanics, the psychology, and frankly, the sheer existential weight of a sudden extraterrestrial arrival. How would it actually unfold minute by minute? How would our global defense systems react to something like this? And honestly, perhaps most importantly, what does our reaction say about us as a species?
I want you to put yourself directly into this narrative for a second. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. It starts like literally any other normal Tuesday, right? You hear the coffee maker going, you reach over to snooze your alarm, but before you even unlock your phone, you notice it. Every single notification on your screen is completely identical. You've got missed calls, frantic text messages from family, breaking news alerts pinging from every single global outlet. And before the UN can even manage to assemble, the news is already the #1 trending topic everywhere. The networks have totally overridden their regular programming. World leaders are stepping up to podiums, and their faces are just pale and drawn. What if it actually happened tomorrow? No more decades of searching the static of the cosmos for a tiny radio blip. No more subtle math equations debating if life is out there. The hypothetical instantly becomes history. The world as we knew it yesterday is gone forever, replaced by the singular, breathtaking reality.
Look, if this event kicks off tomorrow, it is not going to be some gentle, slow rollout. It is going to be a terrifying, ticking clock. Let's map it out. Hour 1. Deep space monitoring networks register an anomaly. And we're not talking about a comet or a rogue asteroid. This is a signature moving with a deliberate, decelerating trajectory. The data is parsed, it's verified, and it's rushed up the chain of command in absolute total secrecy under immediate SETI post-detection protocols. Fast forward to hour 12, and that silence shatters. Observatories catch the very first visual confirmation. We're talking a literal glint of sunlight off an engineered surface, captured by massive optical telescopes. Images leak, they flood the internet, and humanity holds its collective breath. And then, hour 24. Atmospheric entry. A fiery descent that is visible to the naked eye across entire hemispheres. In exactly one single rotation of our planet, we've gone from the solitary inhabitants of a lonely rock to hosts of the completely unknown.
Let's break down how this actually builds into a cascade of physical realities that our planetary defense and scientific communities literally have to process in real time. Step 1 forces us to scramble every radio telescope we have, desperately parsing the electromagnetic spectrum and specific frequency bands. We're trying to decipher if there's any communication embedded in their approach, right? Are they broadcasting prime numbers, or are they just completely silent? Then, step 2, that visual confirmation, is where the math becomes terrifyingly tangible. We start measuring their scale, their propulsion physics, their sheer technological capability. And finally, step 3, atmospheric entry. This is the crossing of the ultimate threshold. They aren't a deep space curiosity anymore. They are interacting with our environment, our gravity, our home. The raw mechanics of this arrival dictate an escalating, crushing pressure that humanity has literally never faced before.
As that atmospheric entry completes, something incredibly profound happens. Commercial air traffic is grounded globally. Every single flight. Military jets are ordered to hold defensive perimeters, but strictly ordered not to engage. For the very first time since the invention of the jet engine, the skies go completely silent. I just want you to take a second to really imagine that silence. No contrails, no roaring engines overhead. Just 8 billion people stepping out of their cars, walking out of their office buildings, standing in the middle of the streets, and just looking up. In that sudden, absolutely deafening quiet, the noise of our daily lives, the politics, the economic struggles, the border disputes, it all evaporates instantly. The silence of the sky amplifies the beating heart of humanity, united for a brief, fleeting second in pure awe and pure terror.
That awe, however, very quickly gives way to absolute necessity. And this brings us right to the core of the First Contact prospect, the imminent reality of this arrival, violently crashing into the immediate critical assessment of their intent. The scientists have to step back, and the strategists step forward. We know they're here. We know, for a fact, they possess technology vastly superior to our own, simply by virtue of having crossed the interstellar void just to reach us. So, the entire paradigm of human survival now hinges on one singular urgent task, decoding exactly what they want from us.
As these massive, silent crafts slow their descent and just take up hovering positions above key global cities, the defining question of our existence becomes terrifyingly simple. Friends or enemies? I know, it sounds like some playground binary, but it is actually the most vital question ever posed in human history. Think about it. The crafts aren't doing anything yet. They're just waiting. Are they studying our atmospheric composition? Are they calibrating their weapon systems? Or are they simply extending a cautious hand in greeting, using basic game theory because they know exactly how easily they could startle us into a panicked, preemptive strike? Every single movement, every thermal emission, every passing second of their silence is heavily, heavily scrutinized. The tension of this unknown intent is honestly almost heavier than the arrival itself.
So the crucial point is how we logically and completely impartially weigh these two extreme scenarios without just completely panicking. On one side, we have the friends scenario. These would be benevolent explorers. Maybe they're a post-scarcity civilization that has totally moved beyond conquest. They're arriving to offer us membership in some galactic community, bringing cures for diseases, clean energy, a cosmic olive branch. But on the exact opposite side of the ledger, we have to soberly assess the enemies scenario. Hostile forces. We have to seriously consider survival strategies like the dark forest theory, the idea of a civilization driven by a ruthless biological imperative, viewing Earth not as a peer to be greeted, but merely as a resource node to be harvested. If they pose a direct threat, their hovering silence isn't a greeting at all, it's a tactical calibration. The margin for error in misinterpreting this intent is literally zero.
Assessing this prospect leaves us in what is basically a global pressure cooker. You've got a sudden arrival event that effectively resets the human calendar to year zero. You have the immediate frantic race to determine their intent. You're trapped in this harsh friends or enemies dichotomy, which leaves practically no room for nuance in those highly volatile early hours. Ultimately, this represents the ultimate test for humanity. Are we going to fragment? Will fearful, isolated nations launch preemptive nuclear strikes out of sheer panic, effectively dooming us all? Or will we finally unite and speak to the stars with one single, unified voice?
But just as we brace for those massive hovering ships to open their doors, the source text forces us to confront a completely different and honestly perhaps a much more chilling reality. What if the booming, cinematic arrival we literally just mapped out, the ticking clock, the silent skies, the hovering ships, what if all of that is a total misdirection? The text challenges us with a subtle but absolutely earth-shattering phrase, aliens among us. And that completely flips the first contact prospect right on its head.
And this brilliantly illustrates a vastly more complex, maybe insidious, or perhaps even wondrous possibility. What if they are already here? What if first contact wasn't some loud global broadcast happening tomorrow, but a quiet, subtle infiltration that happened years, decades, or maybe even centuries ago? Think about it. If their technology is advanced enough to cross the galaxy, it is certainly advanced enough to observe us completely undetected, to study us from the crushing, lightless depths of the Mariana Trench, or from high orbit, or maybe even disguised right inside our own digital networks. If they are already among us, that friends or enemies question becomes incredibly complicated. If they're enemies, well, why haven't they struck yet? Are they waiting for us to cross a specific technological threshold? And if they're friends, why do they remain hidden in the shadows, just watching us struggle instead of intervening to help?
Look, whether they arrive in a spectacular display of fire and silence tomorrow, or whether they've been silently observing us this entire time, this thought experiment ultimately turns the lens right back onto us. How does the first contact prospect change who we are today? Just contemplating this scenario forces us to evaluate our petty, everyday divisions, our stewardship of this planet, and our actual readiness to step onto a much larger cosmic stage. If they arrive tomorrow, would they find a species actually worthy of connection, or one that's just destined for self-destruction? It is a profoundly heavy mirror to hold up to ourselves. Definitely something to think about the next time you look up at the night sky. Or hey, perhaps the next time you look at the person passing you on the street. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning, keep looking up, and I will see you next time.